This is Law Enforcement Live, produced by the FBI Training Network at the FBI Academy. Today's program is Homeland Security and Community Policing. Now, here's your host, Penny Parrish.
Hello, I'm Penny Parrish, your host today on the FBI Training Network. I'm an instructor with the Law Enforcement Communication Unit here at the FBI Academy. Welcome to the program. We're glad to have you with us. About 1 year ago, our world changed. Many of the images from September 11th are burned into our hearts and our minds. The heroes are not just those who were lost, but those who worked following the attacks and those who continue to work today. The nation that day came to realize what local and state law enforcement have known all along, that those police officers, along with firefighters and other public safety personnel, are truly our first responders. On our show today, we are not going to dwell on what happened a year ago, but we'll talk about what we're doing in response to that day. We are asking the question, as we take action to protect ourselves and our cities from another such attack, how are we changing our relationships that we have built with our communities? With us today is Dr. David Carter from Michigan State University. David is a professor in the School of Criminal Justice and director of the National Center for Community Policing. A former Kansas City, Missouri police officer, David came to Michigan State in 1985. He has served as a trainer, consultant, and advisor to many law enforcement agencies throughout the U.S., Europe, and Asia. Dr. Charles A. Moose has been the Chief of Police for the Montgomery County Department of Police since 1999. Before coming to the Washington metropolitan area, Chief Moose came up through the ranks to Chief of Police for the city of Portland, Oregon. The chief is an internationally recognized advocate and lecturer on the philosophy and implementation of community policing. Also with us is Dr. Richard Holden, chair of the Criminal Justice Department of Central Missouri State University. Richard is a former police officer in the states of Washington and Texas. He lectures frequently on right-wing extremism and terrorism. He has also served as a trainer and consultant to many law enforcement organizations throughout the world. Our fourth guest will be joining us via videotape. Louis F. Kias is the Assistant Director of the Office of Law Enforcement Coordination. He was appointed to oversee this office by FBI Director Mueller. Prior to this appointment, he was the Chief of Police for the city of High Point, North Carolina, and served with the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department for 25 years. Mr. Kias has a history of community involvement and participation. And with us in the studio and in the classroom are members of the current National Academy class at the FBI Academy. Also joining us are members, our viewing audience, are officers from the Jackson County Sheriff's Department in Medford, Oregon. We're glad all of you could be with us. Now remember, we'd like to include you in our discussion, so contact us anytime during the broadcast with your questions or comments. Our toll-free number is 800-862-7577. Our fax number is 703-632-3328, and our email address is fbitn@fbiacademy.edu. When the attacks in New York began, photographer Gary Suson did not want to capture the horrible images, but ultimately he was called on to serve as the official photographer of the New York Fire Department. He worked alongside and grew to know and respect the police and firefighters who worked heroically under such excruciating circumstances. Across the country in California, the independent television service documented what the tragedy meant to first responders who watched in horror from afar. The following footage is from these photographs and interviews.
firefighter's job has changed.